Hold on a second.
We are recording. It's fine. We can be exactly who we are. I have no problem being real with what's going on because this is crazy. So we'll start off. I kind of really wanted to put this title at What Was I Thinking? Because I grew up in the 80s and 90s mocking homeschoolers, thinking it was just such a bad idea. And now I'm a homeschool parent myself. So how did we get there? So a little bit about who I am, what do I have to speak from? So married for 20 years. I've got 4 kids, 2 that are in special ed. Levi, my oldest, was homeschooled for the last 2 years, and we found a great SPED program for him at Hoover. So my 2 oldest are special needs, and they are in traditional school this year. And my 2 youngest are typical kids, and they are homeschooled. So I've dealt with IEPs, the whole gamut, on both traditional and homeschooling. So my experience, I was a math and science teacher for a year. I loved the curriculum. I hated the kids. I got transferred to be a first grade teacher. I hated the curriculum, and it took me 3 years to like the kids. And now it's my favorite grade to teach. I moved over to a brick and mortar charter school. So I taught first grade for 4 years, and we were given no textbooks. I had to create curriculum from nothing. So that was it. To be honest, it was a lot of work, but really fun. And this is my 3rd year in a homeschool charter. My job is to guide parents to do the state standards in a very non-conventional way. And then I'm the accountability piece to those state standards, so that they know what they're doing. So starting to homeschool, how do you do it? Because everything you know about school doesn't apply to homeschool. So the first 2 weeks, I'm going to give you a hint on what teachers in classrooms do. There's minimal instruction. There's not a ton of new material that comes out the first 2 weeks. You're kind of setting the routines. Some families have this space is for math and this space is for reading. They have like a reading chair. You also figure out times. Like my kid is more awake at 10 o'clock than they are at 7:30 in the morning. Some kids do better with math in the afternoon. Some families function better when the other parent is home. And so they don't school until like 5:30 in the evening. So your first couple of weeks is really just kind of figuring out what works. A tip that I have, like we set our math time by watching The Price is Right. Just setting the routine, it's still something engaging. You still got to do some math, but it kind of sets that routine. This is the time that we're going to do that. Where does this go? Like in classrooms, there's places for pencils and papers, and the teacher sets that up. Well, now you're the teacher. So you've got to figure out how much of this do I want to keep? Where does a pencil go? Who gets to sharpen it? You're just trying to figure out what's going to work for your family. The thing about homeschooling is every family is different. Some have toddlers running around, which makes it hard. Some have high schoolers that check out really quickly. So your first couple of weeks are a lot of setting routines. When do we eat breakfast? What do we do afterwards? I do something called a respect agreement. It's restorative justice. So that is in our first couple of weeks. If you look online for restorative justice, there's some tips on how to help kids make the rules. A lot of times I was a classroom teacher and made rules for the classroom, and it's really hard to keep kids to rules. When I switched over to a different program and the kids made the rules to the classroom, they changed rules sometimes, like this rule isn't working, but they had a lot more buy-in. You can use PBS Kids to kind of start setting routines, play games. My kids now wake up and play Clue. That's it's not something we taught them to do or said, this is what you're doing. They're going to go through phases. So the next part is it's not working. And I'm going to be honest, it's not going to work. So whatever routine you set up, you've got to have a skeleton. You've got to have an idea of how to build it. but there's going to be changes that are going to happen. This kid takes a nap at this time. This kid is really needing more of my attention. So it's okay, change it up. You might want to be, especially when the weather gets nicer, go outside to do your reading. It's the routines are there as a framework, but if you stick to that routine harshly, it's going to backfire in your face. So just be flexible. It's okay. Your kids are growing, and so are you. Is there another parent in the house? Some have that option. For my family, Lana's really good at writing and grammar. So we have just a separate time where she takes care of that. I have families on my roster that like the dad is really good at math. So the kids do math with dad at 8 o'clock at night. And so it's just something to kind of think about. Zoom with your friends, like get on and find somebody who is homeschooling, maybe a little bit more of a veteran than you, and zoom in with them and go, okay, so I've tried this and this and this, and they're melting down. And so it's always good to connect with somebody who's doing it. And then last resort, get online and find a community of homeschool people to help. The issue with that is that you are going to get a fire hose worth of information, and so trying to sort through it. But the good part is you're going to have a fire hose worth of information that you can start looking at. So, and I put enjoy the mess. Like in August, you're like, okay, think we can do this. It's going to be good. In September, you're like, hang on, this isn't exactly what I thought. In October, you're wondering if the kids are learning anything. You're questioning if you're even a good parent at all. By November, you're kind of wondering when somebody comes to take your kids, because isn't that how this is supposed to work? I'm supposed to give them away. And then in December, by that time, you're kind of like, I think they should just go back to public school. I don't know if this is working. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit more. But that is normal. That is actually what happens to every homeschool parent just about every year. That is normal. So I wanted to give a tip. So you went rogue, huh? You decided to go off the grid. So those of you who are doing a private homeschool, I gave a link in the slides so that it has step-by-step on how and when. And you get to name your school. So I've got some friends that are like the Hobbit School, and you get to name your school and choose your own curriculum. So I'm leaving that slide and the link there for you for future reference. Homeschool styles. This is a big deal. There are different ways to homeschool. There's 7 major ones. I've kind of put a little blurb on how each one works. So classical, these kids do a lot of rote memorization. I have no families on my roster, but I know of families, amazing amounts of information that the kids know, very engaging. It's a style that works for a lot. Charlotte Mason is more kind of whole child, so it's not just sit down and do books, it's also looking at emotional part and their mind. Montessori, there's a couple of those schools in town, and it's very child-directed learning. Unschooling is really informal. It takes child-directed learning even further, so they really get to choose what they want to learn. Traditional, that really kind of looks like what your kids are used to and what you grew up in, and just applying that to homeschool. It's a model that works. There's unit studies where, like, we want to learn about China, and so you kind of design all of your math works, or has China worksheets. You learn about culture and food. You just create a whole unit, and all of your science, everything is wrapped up in that unit. Eclectic is, I'm going to pick something from everything. I like what Charlotte Mason does. I like traditional. I like unit studies. So there are families that I know of that are like a mishmash of all of those. And then there's online learning. So that's where our traditional public schools are doing a component of this, but there are actually full curriculums that are online. There are teachers like Edgenuity. There's different programs that they have a teacher for your kid that goes through that coursework. So those are kind of 8 different ways you can homeschool. But then Yeah, there's 8. How do I pick? Like, which one is for us? So I put a link in the slides for a homeschool style quiz. So it kind of gives you a chance to kind of see what am I like? What style goes with what I do? And then sit down with your kid and walk them through the same quiz. Even if they're like 4 or 5 years old, you can kind of change the language. And a lot of times they're different. The way you learn and the way they learn are different. So the goal here in homeschooling is you're trying to educate your kid, right? You've already learned this stuff. So if the results are different, start with the way the kid learns. I'm not saying it's going to be golden and perfect, but start that direction and start looking at some of the ideas there. I linked in, because I work for a school, and I was on a committee that vetted through a lot of different curriculums. I've got ones that follow all of the state standards. So these are ones that are state standards aligned, but do it differently than a traditional classroom. So there's full package curriculum where like you buy a box and every book, every paper clip for a science experiment shows up at your door pre-packaged, and it comes with a teacher guide where it walks you through every day. And then you can pick things apart. So all of these are a resource for you to kind of look through what, once you find out kind of a homeschool, like what are some curriculum options. There's people that are want religious based. So there's classical conversations, which I know some families really enjoy. The Good and the Beautiful is another religious based curriculum that the religious families enjoy. The next question you got to ask is, how much screen time do you want your kids to have? So I have families that are like, I want them on screen 6 hours a day, and that's where they're going to get to their education. I have families that are like, maybe a PBS Kids app, like maybe. So you have to decide for your family what's going to work best. I've got 2 links here to some different articles that tell about different educational apps. And then there's just online education. You can do a whole lot of stuff through Khan Academy. If your kid's not getting something with the curriculum that you do have, you can pop onto Khan Academy and try and just get that one concept. It's totally fine. Edgenuity is another online learning. You can pick like just this subject. You can do the whole gamut. And it's kind of geared for your middle of the road kid. So not somebody who's behind, but not somebody who's like way ahead. Strong Mind, 6th grade through 12th grade, is for your kids that are like, they know everything. I can't keep up with them. So that is I just want to put that out there because some families have a kid who's behind and struggling. And then you're spending a lot of time with that kid. And then what do you do with your kid that's just skyrocketed past stuff and is older and you don't even know the stuff to teach them? So just options. Wanted to give that out there. Step 5 after that, take a shot, order something. If you're able to take a shot and you like the all-inclusive packages, you can do, they're between $400 and $1,000, and you can tailor those packages more to what you can do. If you just want to try, let's just try this unit, or let's just try this book, take a shot, order something, start. Being afraid to start or just jumping in with $1,000 is kind of hard. So just take a shot at something and then understand all of this is new for you and it's new for them. So I'm not sure if you've done anything in life, but when it's new, you're not really good at it at first. It takes time. So once you have kind of what's my style, what am I looking for? I kind of put in a homeschool curriculum guide. So if you're Charlotte Mason style, all of these fall into that category. And it's really small, but I think when I share it with you, you might be able to blow it up. And so what I found when I went to homeschooling was There is just so many options. There are thousands of different ways to do this. So this helps you kind of like narrow it down to like 10 so that you can block out the other 990 and just kind of, all right, let's check out these 10 and see how it works from there. Um, there's down here at the bottom, there's others called like little passports. There's weekly or monthly subscription boxes that can show up to your house. Homeschooling just does look different. So you would be surprised at how much your kids learn in the midst of you thinking they're not learning anything. How much time? So we are used to dropping our kids off at 8 and picking them up at 2:30, and all of that's taken care of, right? And a lot of our online learning options being presented by school districts is they're on the computer from 8 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. That's how we grew up. That's what we think it looks like. In homeschooling, the real concept is that you're learning all the time. So you shouldn't be at a table for 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day. You should be learning in lots of different opportunities. So depending on how old they are, there's kind of a minimum, and it just tells you can skate by with this, but they're not going to get a lot. And there's a maximum that you probably should not be flogging your kids in education to do all this work. So find something in the middle. You know, like your kindergartners. I grew up and was in education with half-day kindergarten. And this is saying 30 to 90 minutes a day. Like, how are they going to get any kind of education in 30 to 90 minutes a day? Well, in kindergarten, they're learning how to line up. They got to line up to go to recess, and they've got to come back, and they've gone to the bathroom, and they've got some sort of snack time. And so all of a sudden you start adding up all these minutes, and the amount of time that they're one-on-one with a teacher is a lot smaller. It's not this small, but it's a lot less. And you're not having to teach your kids how to line up to go to recess. You're not having to teach your kids, like, this is snack time, this is where we sit. So a lot of that is just built into the family, how you function. So this is more like instructional time. And then this is kind of important. I was looking for one that had this. So what your goal is in the length of sustained attention. Because we're in a world now that attention is about this big, even with us adults. So you're trying to get them to do up to 3 to 5 minutes in kindergarten of sustained work, that they're not off playing with sister in another room and then come back and you get a minute with them and then they're, you know, on a tablet somewhere. You're trying to just get to those reasonable amounts, and the amounts increase as they get older, because they're getting more mature. Science in pre-K, kinder 1 and 2, a lot of that can be done outside with your kids. You're not doing volcano experiments with kindergartners yet, so you don't need that sustained amount of time. But as they grow, you're going to be doing more and more. Some suggestions for additional activities, like homeschooling, is that you're not in a school anymore. So what, you know, a lot of it is for me. So I came out of public school to go into, what do we do? Like, what are some things that we can do? And I remember, oh yeah, we did SSR when I did SSR with my students. Like, set up times where they just get to read. Well, my kids can't read yet. They can do picture books. They can, you know, they can draw and color in another room. You also have to have time where you are not having them climb on you all the time. Put out puzzles, you know, just allow them to play a little bit and have some time where you get to breathe. Go Noodle is a great online PE kind of class. So they do dance moves and all that, and it's free. So, you know, you can break up your day. The kids are throwing a fit. This is not a good day today. This is not happening well. A lot of times they just need to get the energy out. But then if you let them, so this happened to me, you let them go do recess, and it's a 15-minute recess, and you set the timer, and 45 minutes later, you're not back working. So, like, we got to get going again. How is this going to work? So sometimes our breaks are just like a Go Noodle, some sort of indoor exercise, just kind of break up the day, get some movement going. there are families on my roster that take time during the day to meditate, that they just do some creative things. So they break up their day. They do like reading in the morning for 15, 20 minutes, and then the kids are just toast. So then they do like, like a math activity or a game. Chutes and ladders for young kids is a game, and it's Yahtzee is your second and third grade. You're talking repeated addition, multiplication. There's a lot of those things that you can do just to kind of break up the day, and it involves you as a family, because you're around them all the time. Yeah, there's no somewhere else that they're going now. So so you want to enjoy them and them enjoy learning. So that kind of gives some ideas on how much time you spend. And then I went through the teaching credential program, and on the left is a curve that I was taught about on how teachers feel during the year. You start off in August and you're pretty optimistic. You're like, all right, this is good. I've got some good plans. And then, October and Halloween and all of those times where the kids are starting to go crazy. And then you're like, hang on, this isn't going quite well. I'm having a difficult time. And you get to Christmas break going, did I even choose the right profession? Everything I had planned wasn't going exactly the way I thought. And then you come back refreshed and you start going, okay, yeah, I think I got this. I understand. I know my kids now. I know what works. And then by the end of the year, you're like, this was a great year. I'm so glad I did this. I've got great ideas for next year. And you just start the cycle all over again. Homeschool teaching is more like the entrepreneur curve. So you're like really excited to start, and you do like a week or two, and then you're like, oh my goodness, no, I've lost everything. I don't like my kids anymore. Why are they still here? I'm not sure. And then you get to a place where it's like, I'm done. I just can't do this. They need to go somewhere. I can't do this anymore. And then you start trying some different things. And you like, okay, that worked today. That started to work. And it kind of goes up and down. And then you start kind of finding your groove. Now, this is a year-long graph over here. This is like a daily graph for a homeschool teacher. This is kind of what happens. Like, you get up in the morning and you're like, yeah, we got it. And then by like lunch, you're like, I don't know. So part of what I wanted to do with this was like, this is reality. It's okay. So when you feel like this, you don't sit there and go, all the other homeschool parents totally have this together. No, they don't. They're like you in this same spot in here. And this could be a year-long graph, but this is really a daily graph. You're struggling, and it takes you a year to unlearn school. So understand that. I've told all of my new families that are on my roster, it takes a year to undo the 13 years of education that you had and whatever time your kids have had in education, because homeschooling is not that. The more you push to this, everything's going to look, we're going to have this set everything, it doesn't work for families. So it's okay, and it's okay to fail in front of your kids. So it takes a full year. By the second year, your first year, you're constantly questioning if your kids are learning anything. You're constantly questioning if you made the right move. By year two, you're like, oh, well, we completed a year. I think we can do it again. And then by year three, you're like, well, it's palatable. Like we can pull this off now. But the tip that I want to give is you can always go back. The unified school districts have to take you. So if you really need to tap out, like, it's okay. And I know a lot of families right now in the pandemic and everything are choosing homeschooling as a short-term option and not as a lifestyle. So you're looking at ways to kind of fill that gap, so that they don't have the kind of education that you're being given with your unified school district, but you want to go back when it returns to normal. So they have to take you back at any point. So don't feel trapped forever. There are families that do make the choice, like we've jumped, we're homeschooling all the way through. But the big thing about homeschool is every family is different. So understand that, and understand that you know your kids, And you know your limits too. So, so give yourself kind of that pressure release, give yourself that out. But before you just give up and just leave, you know, try and seek out some homeschool parents that, I'll be honest, the homeschool community is, has been mocked and ridiculed by people like me for a long time. But they have open arms for people who are wanting to check this out in this time. I've talked to most of my families on my roster so far this week, and they're really like, if somebody needs, just give them my name. I can talk to them. A lot of them are very open to this transition and making sure that kids succeed and that you stay sane. So, did I lose you in any part of that? This is just the down and dirty version. This is 30 minutes. I spent about an hour and a half with each of my new families and have a lot of more detailed information. I am available via Zoom if you want. My family's going through a lockdown situation with some medical issues, but I'm still available via Zoom. Email me. I'd love to help you or answer a question if I can. And if I don't know, I know people who do know. So anything from you guys that, while it's just the 5 of us, that you want to ask? Victoria, I see you're unmuted. Did you have anything?
I don't have specific questions, no, but I wanted to say thank you for doing this, because it has been kind of like a tightrope all summer. Like, am I gonna do it? Am I not? And as a new teacher, it was really hard to jump off of the teacher train and be like, nope, I'm gonna homeschool. And so thank you for doing this, because I enrolled the boys with Inspire, and then we got bumped to the wait list, and now we're going through Chawanakee.
Okay,
Do you know anyone at Chawanakee Academy?
Not anymore.
Yeah, neither do I. Everyone's like, I used to 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
Nobody does. But it was kind of like a last resort. We've been going up to church in the mountains, and I was like, oh, why not see if they have room? And they did. So
sure.
Anyway, I
They
figure that way we have some resources.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, do they hand you, every charter is different on how they do that. Do they hand you a curriculum? Do you have choices? Don't know
I
yet.
haven't heard anything from them because they're really overwhelmed right now, because they decided Chawanakee Unified School District like holds their charter, and they allowed for extra funding to support school growth. So they have like twice the number of students than they've had over the last 10 years this year. So I haven't heard back from their office, except that we were accepted and we're on the roster, and that's it. I have no idea.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm flexible.
A lot of what I wanted to make sure, since this is recorded, is like the emotional part of being a homeschool parent. It's hard. Like there's your first year is hard, and there's nothing you can do about it to make it great. Because you're undoing so much of who you are and what you thought this would be. But the result,
that's really validating.
Yeah, and the result is you really know your kids pretty well through this. And it might be a short-term lifestyle for some, and it's great. And it might be a long-term lifestyle for some, but feel normal. Feel okay that this is frustrating. Feel okay that you're crying at night going, what did I do? Feel okay that your kids are crying. And it's the big thing, it's okay for them to see you fail. Like, we've put up this idea that adults are just perfect and everything gets pulled off and the teachers are great, but like, they get to see mom and dad struggle and go, what, can we talk, kid and parent, like, can we talk, what would make this better? Like, you're frustrated, I'm frustrated, and we had a lot of those conversations the first year homeschooling, and we still had some second year homeschooling. And your kids get older each year, so they're different each year. So, but you're normal, but don't be alone. You aren't alone. That will kind of kill you. To be alone. And this is going to be the hardest year ever to homeschool, because homeschoolers don't stay at home. Homeschoolers are out and about. Homeschoolers are with other families. Homeschoolers are doing activities. So you're actually getting kind of a half idea of a homeschool this year. And so if you can survive this is what my first principal told me after I taught middle school. If you can survive this, you can do anything. So yeah, reach out. I'd love to be a person that you reach out to, but if you have a homeschooling parent that you know and trust, and you're like, their kids actually kind of know stuff, like what do they do? Reach out to your friends. You'll be surprised how much they learn. I had a kid last year gain 3 years of growth on a not a standardized test, on a norm test, where they just, everybody that's 6 years old, how much did they grow this year? This kid grew 3 years worth. And mom was like, I didn't think he learned anything. So in homeschooling, as you try it out, I still have not had anybody not learn in homeschooling, and the lowest growth is like 3/4 of a year. So you'd be amazed at how much your kids actually pick up, and your youngers when they're sitting listening to what you're doing with your olders.
Yeah, that's a lot more than public school. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, Abby.
Couple things. So one, thank you also. And I wish I had this presentation last year before I started, because what the heck? Like, I wish I had, like, I didn't even buy curriculum last year, Jeff. I didn't even buy curriculum because I was so overwhelmed. I didn't know how to, I mean, Lily's special needs. I didn't know what, they just kept telling me, like, it's going to be too hard for her. And so I just didn't know. And there's too many choices is not a good idea for me.
Yeah.
So the fact that you broke it down like this, I know you said you do more, but this is like super helpful. Second, are we going to get copies of your notes, your slideshow?
I put it in the group chat. I think I posted it on the Facebook comments. Okay. If not, okay. My email. Are you guys in chat right now?
I'm in chat. I don't see anything.
Oh, that's not good. That means I didn't do something right on chat.
And then my other question, which you can answer later, maybe we can, but I don't know if you could help me figure out, once I maybe take those tests and stuff, but with Lily, because she's special ed, I just have such a hard time figuring out which curriculum to get. That's why I never bit the bullet last year, but I really want something. Sure. So I don't know if you have any suggestions for someone who's very, like, very behind.
Yeah, are you like, I want to plug and play, I don't want to plan, like I want something that I open the book and it tells me what to do? And
probably preferably for now, because I don't know, like over the summer, I got a couple of those boxes. I tried out a few. I got I've been getting little passports, but then we got one that it was like almost like a unit study, but it was all around one book. And then they gave us like 30 different like projects. And I was like, this is awesome. And it had like instructions for every single one. And I was like, this is what I need. I just need someone to tell me what to do, how to do it. That's what I think I need, because I don't have the mental capacity right now to come up with new stuff or my own stuff. I just can't.
Yeah. My first year homeschooling, I'm going to be this awesome homeschool dad who's been an awesome classroom teacher. And everybody likes me. And so I had 3 kids homeschooling, 3 different curriculums for science, 3 different curriculums for math, 3 different curriculums for every subject. And we didn't get a lot done. Wow. So I found one that's called Book Shark. Okay. It is made for age ranges. Oh. And so you all do history and language arts together.
Yes.
And then you expect different levels of work from your kids based on their I can statements, their state standards. So
that's perfect.
I found that much easier to have that age range. And then kind of, since you've got that, kind of go towards the lower age range rather than trying to max it out.
Yeah. Well, my
And
second grader, Lily, is probably going to be around the same level as my TK or even maybe below. So like it's the perfect time because they're probably at the same level right now.
yep, yep.
Mhm.
So that was one. It's in the when I share, I'll figure out a way to get you
Okay.
the slides. But
Okay.
everything's hyperlinked so that
Okay.
you don't have to go looking. That's something I learned from virtual training at the school I'm at now. They send slides and have links, and so I don't have to go Google something and
Nice.
hope that I found the same thing. So, so
Awesome.
that's one that I've had experience with, and that families who have multiple children at multiple levels
Okay.
kind of play with, because
Okay.
you're all reading the read alouds, the same read alouds.
Okay.
The leveled readers that they have come with it. You can like,
Okay.
if Lily's not reading it, you can do audiobooks.
Awesome.
You know, like you can totally, and it allows the family to have the same conversations.
And it does like all the subjects and it kind of goes along with the state standards and all of that.
You can cherry pick. It is standards
Oh.
aligned. You can cherry pick your subjects.
Okay.
Last year we got the all subject package. So like
Okay.
even science came with a kit that had like every paper clip, every
Awesome.
tape, everything for every experiment for the year,
Yes.
all in a box, shipped to my door. Every
Yes.
read aloud book or reader that the kids had was
Yes.
it was like $900, but we had Inspire
Everything.
funds to do it. But
Yeah.
it came in like 3 boxes, and it was a huge event to unbox it and put it up. But it was like this, you know, everything you need. So you're not, oh, I forgot to go to the library. We can't do
Yeah.
that lesson today.
Yeah.
Oh, well, kids, we got to go to the store and get
And
this.
it lines it all out like this day, do this, this. Okay, that's what I need. I just need someone to tell me what to do. That's what
Yep.
I need.
And that's what I tell new families. That's the
Yeah.
type to launch from. Do your first
Yeah.
year like that. So because you don't know what you're doing.
Mm.
Victoria, you were a first-year teacher. It's awesome, isn't it? You just have no idea what you're doing all the time.
I didn't feel that way.
Oh, you didn't?
I hear that's common, but I had taught before. I just was getting my California teaching credential, and I think and I'd been a Sunday school teacher. Like I never got rusty, but also I live my life. I'm just very flexible. I don't grab onto things tight. I learned to just like go with it a long time ago. And I think that's what gets everyone bent out of shape is when you're like, this is exactly what we're doing. And then the kids are like, was she talking? And so you just throw it away. And so my kids, they are sponges. What you said, like my kids sometimes, like the other day, someone stopped by to drop off something, and Max, he's going into 3rd grade, he started talking to him about U-boats and Nazis. And I was like, how do you know this? Like when did you learn about Nazis? And he was like, oh, I found a book on Libby and I read all about U-boats. And it's an app with the library, but I just he never mentioned it to me. He didn't think I would be interested, but some guy was in the driveway and he thought that guy's gonna want to know about U-boats.
Yep.
And I just thought, you don't even need me. But I'm here, I just feel like I'm here to guide kids, and they're gonna learn whether you teach them or not because they're kids. And that's why I love kids. But the part of me that's kind of neurotypical who wants to set up a classroom and do it, I've really been like, I'm not doing that because I learned that lesson last summer. I prepped for 1st grade, and then on the 2nd day of school, I got moved to 6th. And so I'm never doing that again, ever.
Yep.
So yeah, we're going with the flow. I am personally really overwhelmed right now though, because I do have a lot of friends who are moving to homeschool this year or have been considering it. And I think because they know I'm a teacher and some of them knew I was considering it, I just feel like I've been inundated by other people's questions and them trying to figure out what their styles are. And so what you've said is really validating because I was in this place where I was like, should I be more worried? Like, should I be stressing out? Should I have already bought a lot of curriculum? And I'm like, no, we're just going to start with what we start with and we'll move from there. And I think that's a healthy place to be right now and really all I can handle. But I felt kind of like I haven't done enough just because everyone else seems to be like buzzing with all the purchases they're making and who they've talked to and whatever. So I needed to hear what you said tonight, definitely.
Yeah, you know how much money was wasted my first year trying things? Oh,
But
this is
you just
totally gonna
said
work.
three curriculums for 4 subjects
There was
for
so
3
much money
kids.
wasted
That's a lot.
because
Yeah.
you gotta have this structure. You gotta have this. You gotta have everything in place. And it didn't work.
I have some like routines figured out in my head just based on how we already run the house and like what time I'm more likely to get my first graders' attention. But the rest of it, I'm kind of like, I'll probably figure it out a couple days before we're gonna start. I do have a question. What do you and Lana just like teach through the year, or do you respect the school start date and then like reinvent your house, or how do you do that?
Perfect. Great question. So because I'm not a private affidavit, I'm actually part of a charter school. And so I have to be accountable for that. I tell all of my families on my roster, you have, this year it's 175 academic instructional days. Like that's what you're accountable for. How you do that is up to you. So we would work like Labor Day, we would do school and go to Six Flags on a Wednesday. Sometimes I've got some families that just go through holidays, like even Christmas break, we're just gonna keep going and they end in May. It's not traditionally the way it's supposed to be done, but they put in 175 academic days. So for our family, how we work with it, we just kind of pick and choose which holidays we're going to work through and bank the days for something that we want to come up. It was a big motivator. I had Six Flags season passes. It was a big motivator to get through some work. Like, all right, we're going to bank this day. And then if we get all of our work done through this unit, we'll go on the next Wednesday. But our school day kind of shifts around. My kids are getting older, so they're sleeping in a little bit more. So they're getting up like 7:30, 8 o'clock, having their own breakfast, pulling out whatever board game is hot at the moment. And then we kind of start around 9. And Lana we both work from home. We're all home all the time. Nobody leaves, we're all here, which is maddening, especially in a pandemic. So we leave mom alone until lunch. Like, we don't get to go ask her questions. We don't get, she has to have her time. And then she takes over language, writing and grammar. And she does that after lunch for like an hour. And then I sweep up whatever's left. So it was something that we tried the first year with her not being involved at all. And I'm sitting there working with them, and they would walk over and ask mom. And they'd walk over and ask mom. And I'm like, I'm right here. What are you doing over there? So we decided, all right, well, mom needs to be involved. But she's really good at these things. So and she didn't want to spend 4 hours during the day. Like, give me an hour, we'll knock it out. And it's worked well. They leave mom alone, and they don't really listen to me, but they listen to me, So that's how we kind of made it work. But we went through 4 or 5 different ways to make it work in the first year, and all of them failed.
Do you have a designated space where you do your schooling, or are you guys spread out all over your big old house?
The kids kind of pick their space. When they're reading, sometimes they like to be in the living room. Well, like my read alouds are in the living room because I have my chair that I sit in. That's where the read alouds happen. But when they're reading, they can go to their room. They can go to a different room. When they're writing, Lana likes to do it in the sunroom. Math, they get to pick their spot because they're at different levels in math. So they got to pick their spot in the house. Asher likes to be at my desk. Autumn likes to be in the dining room. But the key was trying to so when you put your stuff all over the house, where do you put it back? Because I don't want to be walking through the house at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and school is everywhere. So we had to come up with designated spots for things to return. Like, this is where the computers go. This is the bookshelf where your readers go. This is where the pencil cup is. But in terms of workspace, I tried to dictate that and it failed. So they get to pick what's comfortable. I have families that like have color-coded baskets, like, you know, Max gets a yellow basket and all of Max's work is in the yellow basket and he can take it anywhere in the house to work, just as long as everything comes back and he knows where it goes. And I have families that have a dedicated schoolroom. All school happens at this table. So you kind of got to find what works.
Yeah, but I think that means I'm going to set up a classroom and disassemble a very heavy bunk bed only to turn around and put it back in there. And so, so I'm just trying to decide. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
I just need to declutter so I can have a spot for all the school stuff. Because it does. I remember the beginning of last year, like my whole kitchen counter just like piled up with stuff. And I'm like, where do I put all of this? So
that's part of the routines. Let the kids buy. And I know you've got young ones, and I know that you think that they've got limits, but have them involved in it. Let them do some of the work. That's the other thing with homeschooling. Like they can do chores. Like they've got time. It's not like they've got homework. You know, you've done it with them. So like help mom cook dinner. Help do, you know, you got to clean your room every day. So at least I can walk in, you know, like start with the bar up higher, but you know, have them do part of being at home. My kids realized that they thought that this was their kingdom and they could just, you know, they're constantly taking their shoes off in this room and then putting socks off in that room, and it just trails through the house. Start a project, start a school project, and then go to the next room and start another project, and then go, like, you've left a mess everywhere. So have them involved in putting things back. But don't let them put it in their room. You'll never find it, no matter how old they are. All right, I got another meeting I got to go to. I posted the slides in the ACC post where all of this originated from. And then I'll add my email address there too. And then my email address will be there so you can email questions. All right.
All right. Abby, it's good to see you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm glad you're here tonight.
Thank you. This is really nice.
Yeah, I miss you. I miss you and your little family.
Oh, thank you. We miss you guys too. All of you guys. All right. Have a good night.
All right.
Bye.